Hello, Suzanne. Hello for the new podcast, How to Solve Conflicts at Work.
Hi, Alessandro. I'm really excited.
Do you know that according to a survey, 85% of the employees experience conflict at work?
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, when you put a bunch of people in a room together, I think the first thing that happens is conflict.
Yeah, probably this it's an average between men that is 60%, and when there are only women, there are 99% of the conflicts. No, I'm kidding.
Come on.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Man.
No, but you're right. Very often when we are in the same space and we have different kind of mindset, different kind of values, different kind of behaves, and probably also personal goals, most of all at work, we tend to have more conflicts. And that's very interesting because we want to not work with somebody. Often we want to work against somebody, even if it's in the same team.
Yeah, that totally can happen. I think, and also the big difference in between friendships and colleagues is that you choose your friendships, but the colleagues, I mean, you choose your job, you choose the company, but the people you're surrounded with, you do usually not choose all of them. So, and I think that's also the reason why conflicts arise, right? Because then you also want to do your job well, you want to get promoted, you have kind of like your own, I think there are like two lines of interest in a certain way. The company's interest to kind of like make more money, to be successful with its product, and then you have your own interests that are also wanting to make money or wanting to. I mean that depends on you, right? But or wanting to get a promotion, wanting to feel super satisfied at your job or whatever it is. But I think that's already, and then you have your colleagues that also have certain goals, and then when they're not matching like all of these goals, it's there's already a very high probability of conflict.
Yeah, you're right. Also, because you touch a very good point when you said about personal goals. Imagine now that we work in the same team and you are very ambitious and you just want to achieve the best, be promoted, and reach the team goal as fast as possible. And then there is me, who just want to live peacefully and want to enjoy his life and want to just work for the salary and nothing else. Here become the first issue, because we are very different and we value different aspects. And of course, you with me, you cannot find and reach your goal, and me with you, I cannot as well. So also when you said we choose our job, I think that sometimes we choose in a wrongly way, because we don't focus enough on what we want and where we are applying, because the company culture is very important. I heard last time another statistic that says when you are surrounded by productive people, you become 20% more productive. And without doing anything different. It's not that you change something in yourself, but being surrounded by this kind of people is increasing your productivity. And the same is also in the opposite side. If you are not, if you are surrounded by people who are not productive, your productivity decrease. So choosing better the company is very, very important.
Yeah, I think that kind of reminds me of one of the last podcasts that we had about you kind of like become the people you surround yourself with.
Yeah.
And I think especially when you're an employee and you spend about 40 hours per week at least at work, I mean, this is like a massive chunk of your time. And for sure, people around you will have an effect. The question is also if that's still the same with home office. That's also interesting. Who then will be your circle of influence? But at least before, without home office, it was like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Have you, because you had, if I will remember, a job with a lot of home office.
Yeah.
Did you
Yeah, I was
experience
working.
a lot of these kind of conflicts, even while you were in distance?
Well, I would say it was more, the thing is like, I would say when you are in the office, it's easier to communicate because then you grab a coffee, you meet at the coffee machine, you have a quick conversation. So exchange is a lot easier. When you're at home, you really need to make space for exchange. And I also feel that misunderstandings come up easier. So I think you need to put even more focus on communication, and a leader with this kind of hybrid combination, being at home, not at home, just sometimes at the office, needs to be highly skilled in communication and super empathic and super sensitive.
Mm-hmm. What can help you both in person or home office situation, help you with ease communication and decrease conflicts?
Patience. I think one of the important things is really patience with the other person, and also being always very, like a very active listener, in the sense that you're really making an effort to understand the other person's perspective, and you're aware that like there is not like one right perspective, but that everyone is looking at the same issue in a different way, and to being open to understand these differences of interpretation.
Mm-hmm.
I think is key, and also understanding what your part of the game is and what your interpretation is. And so it's, for me, it's a mixture of self-awareness, but also a lot of openness to see, okay, what does the other person need, and also not to take things personal, and to understand like what the other person is saying is coming from his or her world. And being also like, when another person says, you know what, like, I can't handle this. So what's the need in behind? Like, okay, it seems that person needs support and help, and saying, instead of saying, okay, well, you can't, well then do it, find a way. I mean, that would be one possible answer, but that's probably not so helpful.
Mm-hmm.
But you can say, okay, so how can I help you? I feel right now that you might need support, and that you feel a little bit lost, and that you feel a little bit confused. What is it what you need right now?
So from what you said, and from the statistic that I said before, that 80%, 85% of the people experience conflicts, it means that maybe there is a lack of communication skills and understanding skills and listening skills at the moment.
Yeah, and I also think that when you boil it down, very often we have similar needs, but like underlying needs. But very often we focus on what's on the outside, saying, I don't know, like, we want, this person is annoying, or why can't this work better, or whatever. So, but in behind, we really want harmony in the workplace. And when we would like start to exchange and talk about, okay, so how can we have more harmony? I mean, what that looks like will be different for everybody, what we share a need. And I think then then it's also a lot easier to get into collaboration and communication instead of conflict. Because we usually very often get into conflict about the topics on the surface, though we have similar needs below them.
It's a matter often of curiosity. It's a lack of curiosity, because often we judge, but we are not curious about the other person.
Yeah, because we see them like as opponents. I think this is also a bit the issue, that we see, okay, so either that person, when that person is satisfying her needs, I won't be able to satisfy my needs, but that's not how it won't work. So, but what if your needs are actually not that different? What if they're actually quite similar? It's also to open to that idea, to say, okay, maybe on the surface, your needs might look different, as I'm saying. Like, I mean, harmony in the workplace looks different for it. You might be upset because, I don't know, the kitchen is not cleaned up. You might be upset because nobody's in the office because everybody's working from home or whatever. But when, instead of like talking about these surface topics, when we would start talking about, okay, why actually is that annoying me? It's because I need clarity. I need structure. I need harmony. I need communication. I need connection. But I think that's also, it's a lot more vulnerable to talk about this than to talk about the surface topics. You really need to open up. And that's, I think, sometimes a real challenge, especially in the workplace, where you try to kind of like, how can I say that? Show your face, but maybe not like you show a version of yourself, maybe not the full version.
I remember this aspect in my previous jobs. Yeah, basically in all of them, I met a lot of people who didn't want to share anything about their life, didn't want to share anything about themselves, didn't want to let you know who they really are, because they didn't want to connect so deeply with co-workers. And this aspect, I think that is very dangerous, because we encourage distance and not being close to people, and this distance create more conflicts. But this aspect, I believe that it's more a company issue. It's their task to create an environment where people feel free to talk and want to share their needs, their goals, their values, and their issues. Because if I'm not being able to talk openly with the management, with the co-workers, at the end, I will be always unsatisfied.
Yeah, I think it's a matter of role modeling as well, right? I think in the end, yeah, as you say, like when you have a leader that is super vulnerable, willing to talk about, like, or willing to be 100% authentic, being just themselves, I think it will be a lot easier for employees as well to just be more themselves and to open up. I definitely agree. And I think it's super artificial to say there is like a work life and there is a private life and there are two versions of myself, because in the end, yeah, it's a role, yes, but in the end, I also think it's still you.
It's still you, and also you spend 20, 30, 40, 50 hours a week in a workspace, and you can avoid to be yourself. You can avoid to express yourself. And that's why I say that it's very important to feel free to talk. And sometimes we should also organize some time and some spaces to allow people to talk. I remember when I was in the bank, I never had the opportunity to talk about my concerns, about my issues, about my goals or whatever. Maybe once a year during the evaluation of the year, but even there it was more always I don't want to say my fault, but I was the one who needed to change something with my concerns, never the management, the company or whatever. And so set up some weekly meetings or a moment where people can share and talk about this aspect. It's very important.
But I think in the same sense, it's equally important not only that people share and that conflicts are actually openly discussed. I think this is also very important because everything that's open can be treated, but everything that's not open, you just don't know where to go. But when there is like an open conflict, that there is a willingness also to manage it and to really deal with it in a proactive way. Because I also remember I once was working at a company and we really had a problem with the way things worked out there, and the working conditions were really an issue, and we openly complained. And we made also suggestions on how to improve. So, but the management was just like, yeah, you have to deal with it. It's just how things are.
Yeah.
And that's like, boom, it's like the total communication killer.
Yeah.
This is like the opposite of saying, okay, what are the underlying needs? And it's just, nope, not my issue. I'm not going to deal with it. And I use kind of like some communication phrase to just close it up. And this is like, I mean, like this, the conflict just persists. And I mean, the consequence there was people were leaving. That's it.
Yeah.
I mean, I was leaving as well. It's like, no, it's not going to happen.
This kind of reaction block all the future feedbacks and suggestion.
Totally.
And I have a technique for issues that it can be like at work or at home or for goals or whatever. And it's like 1-3-1. You tell me what is one problem. You bring me 3 solutions that you propose, and then you choose the best one from your side, the one that you think that is the most impactful for the situation. And this one is from my side if I have an issue. From the other side, it has to be understanding attitude and being open to the situation and to the changes, because we never can say it's not my problem, it's your problem, you need to deal with this one, because it's never
I mean, the thing is also one person, well, I mean, you can have like in inner conflict as well, sure, but like usually like when you have like an outer conflict, you can't have it with yourself, you always have another person involved. So and I think also I really like your technique, and I think also understanding is really important. And especially, I mean, when a conflict is heating up, I think what is also super important to take a break out, like to stop, to just say, okay, physically, like really moving away for a while from that conflict. Because when anger and frustration is involved from a psychological perspective, I mean, your focus narrows down. You will not be able to, like, because of all the hormones that are flowing in your body, you won't be able to find a creative open solution. So first step should be also to say, okay, let's leave the scene for a while and calm down first And then maybe even the next day, if it's really like a very heated up conflict, that can be better also to start again the next day and to also set a different attitude, and then saying, okay, so now I will just actively listen to you 15 minutes. You will listen to me 15 minutes actively. And then we actually start a process of really getting to know our needs and like working on a solution together, understanding each other first. And then we go through the process of solution, because usually then when you discover, oh, the other side actually doesn't really want so different things. It's just that we somehow manage to stay on the surface. Like very often it already calms things down massively.
And so don't you think that it can be useful to have a kind of process in the communication style set up from the company? Because I mean, there are also a different kind of styles when we face conflicts. I mean, in the past, I was the firing person. I want to solve it now, and it's time to do it now. I don't want to wait in 5 minutes and whatever. And so I was pushing for finding a solution right now. And then there are also the people who are avoiders. So they avoid conflicts, they avoid to face the problem, they avoid whatever. And when I had to face conflicts with this kind of people, it was a mess. It was, I get angry so much. And set up yes, a style to manage conflicts, maybe from the company, from the management, can be useful to say, okay, there is a conflict. You can manage. If you can, good, better. If you cannot, let's do it maybe tomorrow. You calm down and you cannot avoid.
Yeah. I mean, anyways, I think communication is something you can learn, and I think it's crucial also to practice, and especially for avoiders, it's even more important to practice that maybe in a safe setting, to see, okay, it's actually not so bad, nothing is happening, and it actually can be super beneficial, because I mean, avoiding a conflict, it will stay with you, it won't go away, and it will be an additional weight for you. Like when you know there is a conflict, it does something with you, and especially when you don't solve it, it just sticks to you. It just sticks. And so I think learning that is awesome. But yeah, I think also to kind of develop a communication style that includes a lot of empathy, a lot of patience. I mean, I'm a huge fan of nonviolent communication, so I think everybody should learn nonviolent communication, and I think then a lot of things would be much easier, not only in the workplace, but almost everywhere.
So, because you are also an expert in nonviolent communication, what would you suggest for my previous myself to have a better conflicts management? When I was more a fire, more yes, more intense communications. Now, by the way, I improved. I'm not a saint, but I improved.
No, come on. I think nobody, right? I mean, this is also everything that we discuss here are best practices. Sometimes also when I have my moments, well, I'm just going everywhere. I mean, this happens, but I think it's always good to kind of remind, okay, what would be a good way, right? I think, to be honest, first for me, I would say, like, what is important, meditate or find a way to create more self-awareness. Because also this, because that would help to kind of separate yourself from this fiery way of like just reacting right away. And it would help you to observe, okay, because usually when we start like getting into a conflict, we already start to also see and observe physical changes, right? Like my posture is different. I I start to say, no, yeah, like my face is different, my gestures are different. So when you observe what are typical cues where you see, okay, this is heating up, and then I would say, okay, just, yeah, like what would break the cycle for you? Is there something, is it leaving the room? Is it something that breaks the cycle? And then, I mean, the next step would be, okay, do some like introspection and really see, okay, what is it? Why am I angry? What is actually my need in behind? Going back to yourself, but in a loving way, because that will also help you to get back to that person in a more loving way as well. And then also talk about your need and start also asking yourself, okay, that person, what she was saying, what's actually her need in behind, and start asking her questions. And then you automatically will start a more loving conversation instead of like a confronting conversation.
It's more work before before the conflict, and then in the time between conflict and resolution. Like maybe I have a conflict, I take a break, and then I take time for myself, and then we face again. And in that moment, I can have a better conversation.
Yes, and I think also the focus is not when a person is saying something to you, it's not on what does that mean to me, but it's more about what does that mean to her first, to her or him or whatever. I mean, to that person basically, and saying, okay, what is actually her need? What's going on here? Instead of like reacting right away with your parts of the personality, with your personal like stories and your.
The problem is often the interpretation of what the other people say, and we think to know what the other people think or want to say. It's very tricky, this part, and that's why I also understand what triggers to a next level of inner temperature. It can be very, very interesting. And I mean, interpretation is bad during the communication, but it's good when we think about what's going on. Because if I understand my interpretation, I know what is my issue and why I was so angry. And focus about this part can help a lot in the next conflicts. Even if I always says, okay, we can not really compare all the conflicts, because the other person is different, I am different, maybe it's another time, but often there are some patterns, so we can understand what we can focus. So understand what triggers in a negative way, it's important. I believe that it's also very important to understand what triggers us in a positive way. So what is very useful, or what calm me down when I'm when I'm on fire. It's a walk, breathing, stay silent, whatever. But understand this part, it's also very necessary, because we can go directly and stop the negative pattern with a positive one, and switch very quickly.
I agree. Yeah, I think it's important to focus on what you can control, right? You won't be able to control the other person's reaction, but the thing is, the question you can ask yourself, how do you want to react? How do you want to manage a conflict? How do you want to, what's your choice?
I always says, what kind of person do you want to be? This one helped me a lot. Who I want to be. I want to be a fighter, a screamer, or whatever, or someone who doesn't listen the other needs, because sometimes happen. I'm not perfect, but if I ask myself what kind of person I want to be, it helps me to be more often that kind of person.
Yeah.
At the job,
I agree.
it's more difficult because how you said at the beginning, we don't choose our coworkers. We don't choose this kind of environment, but we can always choose who we want to be with these people. And often we can also, I don't want to say change, but influence the other people with a good behavior.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's also a good, like maybe you cannot choose your coworkers, but that's a good thing as well, because it will leave you a lot of room to practice.
Shit, yes, we have a lot of time, and for sure everybody has a lot of, I don't mean a lot of conflicts, but it's normal. We can live without conflicts because we don't grow, and also because we are different people. So conflict, often we say this word in a negative way, but it can also be in a positive way. So just we need to face in an aspect that can be productive for ourselves.
Definitely.
So
awesome.
thank you.
Thank you.
And the next episode is gonna be very good topic, also because I feel I suffer a lot in the past, now a bit less, but still suffering. It is time flies, but we don't. So we need to battle procrastination.
Oh yeah, that's also my topic. Ooh, will be good. Thank you.
Thank you.